A millionaire CEO walks into what he thinks is his hotel suite. But the second he opens that door, everything he thought he knew about his life is about to change forever. Marcus Chen didn't believe in fate. He believed in spreadsheets, quarterly reports, and 5-year plans. At 34 years old, he had built a tech empire worth $800 million. He had everything calculated down to the minute, including this weekend getaway to the Azure Coast Resort, which was supposed to be a quick escape before his company's biggest merger. But sometimes life has other plans. And sometimes those plans start with a simple mistake. Room 304 instead of 404. The keycard beeped green. Marcus pushed open the door, already loosening his tie. The flight from San Francisco had been brutal, and all he wanted was a hot shower and room service. He stepped inside, dropping his leather briefcase by the entrance. That's when he heard it. Music. Not the generic hotel playlist he expected, but actual live music. A piano. Someone was playing Chopin in his room. Marcus froze. His first thought was that the hotel had made an error. His second thought disappeared entirely when he saw her. She sat at a white grand piano near the balcony, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. Her dark hair fell in waves down her back, and her fingers moved across the keys like she was having a conversation with the instrument. She wore a simple cream-colored dress, and she was so lost in the music that she hadn't noticed him standing there. For a man who made decisions worth millions in seconds, Marcus found himself completely unable to move or speak. The piece ended. The last notes hung in the air like a question. That's when she turned around. Her eyes went wide. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Marcus said, finding his voice. "I think there's been a mistake. This is room 304, right?" She stood up quickly, her hand going to her chest. "Yes, my room. I checked in 3 hours ago." Marcus looked down at his keycard. Then he actually read it. "Room 404, not 304. 4th floor, not 3rd. "I'm an idiot," he said, feeling heat creep up his neck. Marcus Chen, who had negotiated deals with Fortune 500 CEOs, was blushing. "I got off on the wrong floor. I didn't even look at the card." "I'm really sorry," she laughed. Not a polite laugh, but a real one that made her eyes crinkle at the corners. "It's okay. I left the door slightly open because I was waiting for room service. I should have closed it. Still, I just walked into your room like I owned the place." "Well," she tilted her head, studying him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "Do you?" "Do I what?" "Own the place," Marcus blinked. "What?" "No, I'm just staying here for the weekend." "I was joking," she smiled. "You just have that look." "What look?" "Like you're used to owning things." He didn't know whether to be offended or impressed. Most people either fawned over him once they knew who he was, or they treated him like a walking dollar sign. She was doing neither. "I'm Marcus," he said, which felt like the only safe thing to offer. "Emma." She walked over and extended her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. "Emma Reeves." They shook hands, and Marcus realized he was still standing in her doorway like a complete fool. "I should go. Again, I'm really sorry about this." "Wait." Emma glanced at the piano, then back at him. "This is going to sound strange, but since you're already here and you've already invaded my privacy, would you mind giving me your opinion on something?" Marcus checked his watch. He had a conference call in 30 minutes. But something about the way she asked, like his opinion actually mattered for reasons that had nothing to do with his net worth, made him pause. "Sure," he heard himself say. Emma sat back down at the piano. "I'm trying to decide between 2 pieces for a performance next month. I've been going back and forth for weeks, and I think I've listened to them so many times that I can't hear them clearly anymore. Would you mind being a fresh set of ears?" "I don't know anything about piano music," Marcus admitted. "Perfect. I don't need a technical opinion. I just need to know which one makes you feel something." She played the first piece. It was fast, complex, full of runs and dramatic crescendos. Technically impressive, even to Marcus's untrained ear. The kind of thing that would make an audience applaud. Then she played the second piece. This one was slower, simpler. But there was something about it that made Marcus's chest tighten. It reminded him of something he couldn't quite name. A feeling from childhood, maybe. Or a dream he'd forgotten. When she finished, Emma turned to him expectantly. "The second one," Marcus said without hesitation. "Really? Why?" He struggled to put it into words. "The first one was impressive, but the second one felt like you were telling me a secret. Like there was a story in it that I wanted to understand." Emma's expression shifted. For a moment she looked almost vulnerable. "That's exactly what my teacher said. But I didn't believe him because the first piece is more challenging, more likely to get noticed by critics. I thought I was just taking the easy way out." "I don't think choosing the thing that means something is ever the easy way out," Marcus said. She studied him for a long moment. "You're not what I expected when a strange man walked into my room." "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone scarier, probably," she laughed. "Or someone who would just apologize and leave. Not someone who would stay and listen to me play piano. To be fair, you asked me to stay, that's true. I don't usually do that. Ask strange men for their opinions. Trust my instincts about people that quickly." There was a knock at the door. Emma's room service. She got up to answer it, and the spell of the moment broke. Marcus realized he was still standing in a stranger's hotel room, and he had that conference call in 20 minutes now. "I really should go," he said. Emma signed for her food, then turned back to him. "Thanks for the input, really, it actually helped. Good luck with your performance." He left before he could do something stupid like ask for her number. Because that's not why he was here. He was here to decompress before the biggest week of his professional life. He didn't have time for distractions, no matter how intriguing. Marcus found the elevator, went up one floor to the actual room 404, and let himself inside. His suite was bigger than Emma's, with a better view, but it felt empty in a way he couldn't quite explain. He made his conference call. He ordered room service. He answered emails until his eyes blurred, and the entire time he kept thinking about that second piano piece, the one that felt like a secret. The next morning, Marcus went down to the resort's restaurant for breakfast. He told himself he was absolutely not hoping to see Emma. He was just hungry. The fact that he spent an extra 5 minutes on his appearance had nothing to do with anything. She was there, sitting alone at a table by the window, reading a book and drinking coffee. Marcus's first instinct was to leave before she saw him. His second instinct, the one that had made him successful in business, was to take the risk. He walked over. "Is this seat taken?" Emma looked up and her face lit up with recognition. "The room invader. Please sit. I promise to check the room numbers more carefully from now on." "That's probably wise." She closed her book. "Did you get settled into your actual room?" "I did. It's nice. Too big for one person, honestly. Isn't that the point of places like this? Excess?" Marcus couldn't argue with that. He ordered coffee and eggs from the server who appeared at his elbow. "So what brings you to Azure Coast?" Emma asked. "Business or pleasure?" "Somewhere in between. I needed a break before a big work thing." "What do you do?" Here it was. The moment where he either lied or told the truth, and watched her entire demeanor change. People always changed when they found out. They either wanted something from him, or they put up walls because they assumed he'd want something from them. "I run a tech company," he said, keeping it vague. "That's cool. What kind of tech?" "Cloud infrastructure, mostly. Data management solutions for enterprises." He waited for her eyes to glaze over. Everyone's eyes glazed over when he talked about his work, but Emma leaned forward, interested. "So you help companies organize their information?" "That's a very simple way to put it, but yes, I like simple." "What about you? Do you like it?" No one had asked him that in years. "I used to. Now it feels like I'm building something that's too big to remember why I started." The words surprised him. He hadn't meant to say that out loud. Emma nodded like she understood completely. "I get that. I've been playing piano since I was 5. For years it was just this thing I loved. Then it became serious. Teachers, competitions, expectations. Sometimes I practice and I can't remember what it felt like when I used to play, just because it made me happy." "Is that why you're here? To remember?" "Maybe. Or to figure out if I still want this life I've built. I have a decision to make soon, and I don't know what the right answer is." Marcus's food arrived. They ate and talked. She told him about growing up in Boston, about her mother who had been a concert pianist before she got sick, about the scholarship to Juilliard that changed her life. He told her about building his first app in college, about the early days of the company, when it was just him and 2 friends in a cramped apartment, about the moment he realized he'd actually succeeded and felt strangely empty. They talked until the breakfast crowd thinned out, and the servers started giving them pointed looks. "I should let you get back to your relaxing weekend," Emma said, though she didn't sound like she wanted to leave either. "What are you doing today?" Marcus asked. "I was planning to explore the beach, maybe do some reading. Very exciting stuff. Would you want company?" She smiled. "From a room invader? That sounds dangerous. I promise I know how to read room numbers now." "All right then. Beach?" Beach. They spent the day together, walking along the shoreline, sitting in the sand, talking about everything and nothing. Marcus learned that Emma loved terrible reality TV shows and made her own pasta from scratch, and had once gotten lost in Rome for 6 hours because she refused to ask for directions. Emma learned that Marcus had a secret sweet tooth, that he'd never learned to swim despite growing up near the ocean, and that he'd read the entire Harry Potter series 5 times. As the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they found themselves sitting on a stone wall overlooking the water. "I should tell you something," Marcus said. "My company isn't small. It's actually kind of big." Emma raised an eyebrow. "How big?" "We're about to close a merger that will make it one of the largest cloud infrastructure providers in the world." "Oh," she processed this. "So you're like actually rich?" "Yes." "Okay." She looked out at the ocean. "Is this the part where you expect me to be impressed, or where you expect me to want something from you?" "I don't expect anything. I just wanted you to know. Because tomorrow I have to go back to being that person, the CEO person, and I realized I really liked spending today being just Marcus." Emma turned to look at him. "Here's the thing. I don't care about your company or your money. I care that you listened to me play piano yesterday and gave me an honest answer. I care that you asked me questions today like, my answers actually mattered. That's the person I'm interested in getting to know." "Interested in getting to know," Marcus repeated. "Does that mean you want to see me again after this weekend?" "I don't know. Do you live anywhere near Boston?" "San Francisco." "That's not close." "No, it's not." They sat in silence for a moment. The reasonable part of Marcus's brain was already calculating logistics, time zones, flight schedules. The other part, the part that had been quiet for years, was just thinking about how much he didn't want this weekend to end. "I have that performance in 4 weeks, Emma said. "It's in New York. I could come to New York. You would fly across the country to hear me play piano." "I would fly across the country to see you." "The piano would be a bonus." She laughed, but there was something nervous in it. "This is crazy. We just met yesterday because you walked into the wrong room. Best mistake I ever made. You can't know that yet. I think I can." Emma looked at him, really looked at him, and Marcus felt seen in a way he hadn't in years. Not as Marcus Chen, CEO. Not as a net worth or a business opportunity. Just as himself. "Okay," she said. "Come to New York, but I need you to promise me something." "What?" "Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be. Don't start planning and calculating and trying to control it. Just let it be what it is." That was possibly the hardest thing anyone had ever asked him to do, but he nodded. "I promise." They exchanged numbers. They made plans for New York, and when Marcus walked Emma back to room 304 that night, he didn't kiss her. He wanted to. But he also wanted to do this right, whatever this was turning out to be. Climax key moment. The 4 weeks until Emma's performance were the longest of Marcus's life. They texted constantly, called when they could, had video chats that turned into hours of conversation about everything from their favorite foods to their biggest fears. His business partners noticed he was distracted. His assistant commented that he was smiling more. Marcus didn't care. The merger closed. It was in every tech publication, every business news site. Marcus Chen's company was now valued at over $2 billion. He was officially one of the youngest billionaires in the tech industry. He felt nothing. Well, that wasn't quite true. He felt anxious to get to New York. The night of Emma's performance, Marcus sat in the 4th row of a small concert hall in Manhattan. The room was packed with what looked like music critics, industry people, and serious classical music fans. He was probably the only person there who couldn't tell the difference between Mozart and Beethoven. Emma walked onto the stage in a long black dress, and Marcus forgot to breathe. She sat at the piano. The room went quiet, and then she started to play. It was the second piece, the one she'd played for him in her hotel room, the one that felt like a secret, but this time it was different. This time Marcus understood the story she was telling. It was about being lost and finding yourself, about taking risks, about opening a door and discovering something you didn't know you were looking for. When she finished, The audience exploded in applause. Emma stood and bowed, and when her eyes found Marcus in the crowd, she smiled. Just for him. Afterward, there was a small reception. Emma was surrounded by people congratulating her, offering her opportunities, trying to network. Marcus hung back, watching. This was her world, and he didn't want to intrude, but she found him. Extracted herself from the crowd and walked straight to him. "You came," she said. "I promised I would. What did you think?" "I think you played the hell out of that piano," she laughed. "That's the technical term?" "I think you were brave. I think you told your story exactly the way you needed to tell it." Emma's eyes got shiny. "I almost changed my mind. Right up until I walked on stage, I almost played the safe piece. But then I remembered what you said, about choosing the thing that means something. I'm glad you did." Someone called Emma's name, a man in an expensive suit who looked important. She glanced back, then looked at Marcus. "I have to do more of this networking thing. It's part of the job. But will you wait for me? We can get dinner after?" "I'll wait." Marcus spent the next hour nursing a glass of wine and checking his phone. He answered a few work emails, approved a few decisions, but mostly he just waited. Finally, Emma appeared at his elbow, looking exhausted but happy. "Ready to get out of here?" So ready. They found a small Italian restaurant a few blocks away. Nothing fancy, just good food and dim lighting and the kind of atmosphere where they could actually talk. "So I got offered a spot with the Boston Philharmonic," Emma said over pasta. "It's a huge opportunity. Steady work, prestige, everything I'm supposed to want. That's amazing. Congratulations." "I'm not sure I'm going to take it." Marcus set down his fork. "Why not?" "Because I realized something these past few weeks. I don't want steady. I don't want the path that's all planned out. I want to see what happens when I take the risk. I want to do more performances like tonight, where I get to play what I want, tell the stories I want to tell. That sounds scary. It's terrifying. It means giving up security, probably making less money, definitely making my mother's friends question all my life choices." She paused. "But I think it's the right thing." For me, Marcus thought about his own life, the company that had consumed him for the past decade, the merger he'd just closed, the next 5-year plan that was already mapped out in his head. "I'm thinking about hiring a new CEO," he heard himself say. Emma's eyes went wide. "What?" "For my company. I built it, I grew it, I turned it into something successful. But I don't think I'm the right person to run it anymore. I think I got so focused on building something big that I forgot to ask myself if I even wanted it." "What would you do instead?" "I have no idea." "That's the scary part." Emma reached across the table and took his hand. "Maybe we can figure it out together. The whole being terrified and making impulsive decisions thing. Is that what this is? An impulsive decision? Walking into the wrong room was an accident. Everything after that has been a choice. And I keep choosing you." Marcus looked at their hands intertwined on the table. In every business decision he'd ever made, he'd had data, projections, calculated risks. This had none of that. This was pure instinct, pure feeling, pure faith. "I keep choosing you too," he said. They stayed at that restaurant until it closed. Then they walked through the streets of New York, talking about possibilities. What it would look like if Marcus stepped back from his company. What it would look like if Emma chose the uncertain path. Whether San Francisco or Boston made more sense, or maybe somewhere new entirely. They didn't solve anything that night, but they started to imagine a future that looked different from the ones they'd been planning. 3 months later, Marcus stepped down as CEO of his company. He stayed on the board, remained the largest shareholder, but he handed the day-to-day operations to someone who actually loved the work. The tech press called it a shocking decision. His parents were confused. His friends thought he was having some kind of crisis, but Marcus had never been more certain of anything in his life. Emma turned down the Philharmonic job. She started doing smaller performances, the kind where she had creative control. She also started teaching piano to kids in underserved communities, which paid almost nothing, but gave her more joy than any prestigious concert ever had. They got an apartment together in New York. Neither of their first-choice cities, but neutral ground where they could both build something new. It wasn't always easy. Marcus struggled with not having every hour of his day structured. Emma struggled with the financial uncertainty of her new path. They had arguments about whose turn it was to do dishes and whether they should get a cat, and what to do about Marcus's mother, who kept asking when they were getting married. But they also had mornings where Emma played piano while Marcus made coffee. They had evenings where they cooked dinner together and talked about their days. They had weekends where they explored the city like tourists, finding hidden restaurants and random street performances and tiny bookstores. One night, about 6 months after they'd moved in together, Marcus woke up at 2 in the morning to find Emma's side of the bed empty. He found her in the living room, sitting at the keyboard they'd bought, playing that same piece, the one from the hotel room, the one from her performance. He stood in the doorway, just listening. Just like that first time. When she finished, Emma turned around. "Did I wake you?" "Yeah, but I'm not complaining. I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about the first time I played this for you." In room 304, she smiled. "Can you believe it's been almost a year?" Marcus walked over and sat next to her on the piano bench. "Actually, I've been thinking about that weekend. Yeah? What if you hadn't left your door open? What if I'd actually read my keycard? What if I'd just apologized and left immediately? But you didn't, but I could have. And then I would have spent that entire weekend in my hotel room, had my conference calls, gone back to San Francisco, closed my merger, and just kept going. And I never would have known." "Known what?" "That this was possible. That I could feel like this. That there was another way to live." Emma leaned her head on his shoulder. "I think about that sometimes too. About all the things that had to go exactly right for us to meet. You getting off on the wrong floor. Me leaving the door open. Both of us being brave enough to keep choosing each other, even when it was complicated. Do you regret it? Choosing the complicated thing?" She lifted her head to look at him. "Are you kidding? This is the best decision I've ever made." "Scary, yes. Uncertain, definitely. But the best? Good, because I want to make it more complicated. What do you mean?" Marcus pulled a small box from his pocket. He'd been carrying it around for 2 weeks, waiting for the right moment. But sitting here at 2 in the morning in their tiny living room, while Emma wore his old t-shirt and had sheet marks on her face, this felt exactly right. "I don't have a speech prepared," he said. "I thought about it, tried to write something meaningful, but everything I came up with sounded fake. So I'm just going to say this. You make me want to be brave. You make me want to choose the thing that means something instead of the thing that's safe. You make me want to walk into the wrong room and see what happens. Emma Reeves, will you marry me?" She was crying. Happy tears, he was pretty sure. She opened the box, looked at the ring, then looked back at him. "You're absolutely sure?" she asked. "No spreadsheets? No calculated risks? No 5-year plan? I've never been more certain of anything in my life." "Then yes. Obviously yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, and they sat there on the piano bench, holding each other, laughing and crying at the same time. 2 years after Marcus walked into the wrong hotel room, he and Emma got married in a small ceremony at the Azure Coast Resort. They booked room 304 for their wedding night, because of course they did. Marcus's company continued to thrive under new leadership. He consulted occasionally, invested in startups that interested him, and spent most of his time on projects that actually excited him rather than just made money. Emma built a career on her own terms. She performed when she wanted to, taught kids who couldn't afford fancy music schools, and started a non-profit that provided instruments to underfunded music programs. They were happy. Not in the perfect everything always goes right way, but in the real messy choosing each other every day way. Sometimes Emma still played that piece, the one that felt like a secret. And every time Marcus remembered that moment when he opened a door, he thought led to his room and found something completely unexpected. People asked them sometimes how they made it work, how they'd both taken such big risks and had it actually pay off, how they'd built a life that didn't look like either of their original plans, but somehow felt exactly right. Marcus always gave the same answer. Sometimes the best things in life come from mistakes, from wrong turns, from opening a door and being brave enough to step through, even when you don't know what's on the other side. You just have to be willing to walk into the wrong room. And if you're really lucky, you'll find someone who makes you grateful you did. Emma always added one thing to his explanation. She'd smile and say that luck was part of it, sure. But the real magic was in what came after. In choosing to stay, in choosing to be vulnerable, in choosing each other over and over again, even when it was hard. Because anyone can stumble into something by accident, The question is whether you're brave enough to hold on to it, to fight for it, to build something real from that one unexpected moment. Marcus and Emma were brave enough, and that made all the difference. Years later, they had kids. 2 of them. Both learned to play piano, though neither showed signs of being prodigies, which Emma said was probably for the best. Marcus taught them how to code. Emma taught them how to listen to music. Together they taught them that the best parts of life often come from the moments you don't plan. Their daughter once asked Emma how she knew Daddy was the one. Emma thought about it for a long time before answering. He walked into a room where he didn't belong, she finally said, and instead of leaving immediately, he stayed and listened. Really listened. Not because he had to, not because he wanted something, but just because he was curious about what I had to say. That's how I knew. That's it? Their daughter asked, sounding disappointed. Just listening? Just listening, Emma confirmed. Your dad made me feel seen. And then he kept doing it every day. That's the real love story, not the dramatic first meeting. The choosing to see each other every single day after. Marcus, overhearing this from the kitchen, smiled, because she was right. The wrong room was just the beginning. Everything that mattered came after. On their 10th anniversary, they went back to the Azure Coast Resort. They walked past room 304, which was occupied by someone else that weekend. They walked along the same beach where they'd spent that first day together. They sat on the same stone wall where they'd watched the sunset and made tentative plans for a future they couldn't quite imagine yet. You ever wonder what your life would be like if you'd gone to the right room that day? Emma asked. Marcus considered it. Sometimes. I'd probably be richer. You're already rich. I'd probably be more successful in the traditional sense. You're already successful. I'd probably be more focused on work. You'd probably be miserable. Marcus laughed because she was absolutely right. Yeah, I'd probably be miserable. Do you miss it? That version of your life? Not even a little bit. He pulled her closer. I miss the ambition sometimes. The drive. The feeling like I was building towards something huge. But then I come home and you're there, and the kids are arguing about something ridiculous. And I realize I already built something huge. It just looks different than I thought it would. Emma kissed him. You're getting sentimental in your old age. I'm 38. Ancient. They sat there as the sun set, painting the sky the same shades of orange and pink as that first evening. Different day, same place, completely transformed lives. Thank you, Marcus said quietly. For what? For leaving your door open. For asking me to stay. For taking a chance on the guy who couldn't read his keycard. Thank you for walking into the wrong room. For listening to me play. For being brave enough to choose the complicated thing. They stayed until the stars came out. Then they walked back to their room hand in hand, still choosing each other. Because that's what love is. Not the accident of meeting. Not the rush of attraction. Not even the decision to commit. Love is what happens after. When you keep opening the door. When you keep walking through even when you're scared. When you keep choosing the person on the other side, every single day. Marcus had spent his whole life trying to plan everything, control everything, calculate every risk. And then he'd walked into the wrong room and learned that the best things in life can't be planned or controlled or calculated. They can only be found, and then chosen, over and over and over again. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about unexpected love.